Back to the Apex we go in Las Vegas, Nevada. Arman Tsarukyan comes in at a minus 280 favorite. He's the number 11 ranked lightweight contender in the world. And he takes on the man right behind him, number 12, Mateusz Gamrot at plus 235. Dominic, one of the biggest videos we've had as of late, one of the most supported videos we've had as of late, was our clip talking about why this main event was so deserving of that. That was from our last verbal sparring. Yep. So go check that out if you haven't yet. After this, of course.
Yes.
But in there, Dominic, we had a lot to say about this being the main event because there was, at the time, there was a lot of chatter on the other side. People, I don't want to target our good pal.
Our boy. I'm blanking his name. I'm like, my boy, and I can't
oh my gosh.
There's so many reporters, guys.
I know. And we like this guy too. It's such a shame. Basically, he had put a tweet out there when this was announced as the main event saying, is this the worst main event in UFC history? Not because he didn't like the fight, but saying due to name value, it's not what the views are going to be like on it, whatever. We argued against that point. Felt like we were kind of the defenders of this fight at the time. Like, it felt like, there wasn't really a strong, like, he rightfully maybe too much got some shit for that.
Yeah.
But I felt like there were a lot of people who sort of felt similar, and that we needed a strong voice, which is what we were trying to do, to be kind of the positive beacon of this fight.
Yep.
And Dominic, I'm not going to credit our video as being what turned the tide. But I feel like as we sit here today, just a couple days away from fight night, this main event, I feel like a lot of people are looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people are showing love for it. And hopefully this is a sign of things to come with the main event matchmaking. A fight that truly is just giving us everything we need to know about these two guys right now will be answered on Saturday. And that was a long-winded start to this conversation, but my question for you, when you look at this fight, mano a mano, Tsarukyan versus Gamrot, what questions on either side or both sides are you looking to see answered Saturday?
I mean, the question for both guys that they have to answer, if you want to start with a mutual one, is just like, ready or not, here you go. You're in the main event. Both of these guys, the first time ever. You've proven that ever since both of their debuts, they've went on tears. Arman's won 5 in a row. Mateusz has won 3 in a row. Now you're paired with each other. A top 15 chance here to break in even to the top 10, which I believe is definitely in the cards as a result of this fight. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to jump into, dare I say, the elite status of the lightweights? Because let's face it, this division is very elite, number 1 through 10 plus. Well, I guess we don't have a champion, but let's be honest, Charles Oliveira. So
the champion has a name.
Damn right. So I mean, it's unbelievable. The storylines here, there's so many, and it is like that overwhelming one, the cloud surrounding it. Are you ready to jump into the deep end? And sometimes we don't like when these prospects are paired with one another, but this one just feels so right. We've seen them face veterans. We've seen them face other young up-and-comers. Just look at Tsarukyan, especially his last fight. He destroyed Joel Alvarez. Gamrot destroyed a veteran in Diego Ferreira. Two opposite spectrums, but now they still meet here for a reason. These guys deserve every bit of a main event spot. And, honestly, the winner goes on to main event many, many more fight cards, in my opinion. And the loser, still not even far out. I believe that this fight could even happen a second time down the line. The future is now. That's what this fight is.
These guys have a combined professional MMA record of 38-3 and 1.
Yeah.
Also combined UFC record of 8-2. So neither guy has actually come in here unscathed in their MMA or UFC careers, probably more importantly. But both have looked incredible up to this point. They've really been on great runs. I think, though, it's got to be a talking point that Tsarukyan being such a heavy favorite. I mean, minus 280.
Yeah.
Pretty heavy for a guy. We feel like this fight's so competitive on paper. So when I look at that, I think, Dominic, the reason for those odds being so skewed to him, even if I think it might be a little too much, is the fact that I think the talent Tsarukyan's been fighting has been a lot of matchups like this.
Yeah.
He's been getting tested against guys that are just as hungry, just as much have a youthful vigor about him as he is, which is not easy. I mean, going up against his one loss in UFC, Islam Makhachev, in what was a pretty competitive fight.
Yeah.
He has wins over Olivier Aubin Mercier, who's doing great things in the PFL. Matt Frivola, who's really bounced back after a couple tough losses. Coming off of that destruction of Joel Alvarez.
Didn't see that coming for me.
Joel Alvarez had looked like maybe he would be the guy in this kind of position. And Tsarukyan put up one of the best performances of the year against him, an absolute bloody beatdown.
Yes.
Mateusz Gamrot's looked fantastic, but it's again against more of that aging out talent. Jeremy Stevens and Diego Ferreira, like you mentioned. Scott Holtzman, also another win on there. His lone loss was his debut in the UFC, and that was against a guy who just fought last week. Another guy that you could have in this very much talent-stacked 155 kind of crop of fresh faces. Garam Kutateladze.
Yes.
I think it was a split decision.
Yeah, that he arguably won. Yeah.
Memory serves me right. Mateusz Gamrot again, very competitive fight, but that was really his lone fight against someone who sort of shared a lot of similar attributes. If you want to go off of kind of the youth, the athleticism, the speed, the power. When you're going up against these guys like Jeremy Stevens, Diego Ferreira, it does say a lot to beat them because they do have such a advantage in terms of fight IQ, in terms of just their experience level, the kind of names they fought before.
Yeah.
But they're also just much older in the game, a little more worn out, a little bit battle worn. Their better days are behind them. So I think that's what's led to the discrepancy in terms of the betting odds, Dom. But I'm curious, when you evaluate this fight, do you think this accurately depicts kind of the fight we're going to get? Or do you think Mateusz Gamrot might be just that real deal?
Yeah, man, that's so hard because you look at odds like this, you're like, holy shit, it's not even going to be close. That's what when it's a minus 280, that's a lot of the time what you would think. There's a couple of those on the card that we'll talk about later for the betting, but in this one, I can't help but think, part of me thinks it's going to be this just really technical, just beautiful battle, potentially even go 5 rounds. Another question to be answered from both these guys as well when Noah's bringing up kind of storylines in this fight. But then there's another part of me that thinks the winner of this is just going to starch the other guy. I don't know which side to lean more toward, man, but again, the odds don't say it's going to be close. So, yeah, I don't know. Tsarukyan is just much younger, right? 25 to 31. And Gamrot, yes, a prospect still surging through. But Tsarukyan literally, in terms of the youth, is kind of embraces that prospect title even much more so. And I think it is kind of what you said. He's beating the younger guys that are kind of held in the same regard. I mean, again, like I said, I didn't think he was going to – I actually picked Joel Alvarez to win that fight. And then Tsarukyan not only beat him, he beat him into a bloody pulp. It was disgusting. So, I don't know, man. I feel like the odds are in Tsarukyan's favor because of performances like that. But when you look at Gamrot, yes, it is against older guys. All 3 wins in the UFC are via finish, though, and a lot of them are relatively brutal, like in dominant fashion as well. So I just this fight, I don't know which way to lean. How's it going to play out? I don't know. I mean, the odds are scary.
Is it easy to say that Diego Ferreira is the best win of both of their careers, or combined? If you combine them, I mean, Diego Ferreira was a top 15 fighter. Arman Tsarukyan, I don't believe has.
I would say so.
None of his wins have been against. I mean, Joel Alvarez may have been ranked when they fought, but I don't think he was.
Yeah, I feel like the winner of that got in.
Yeah, so you're right. Tsarukyan has yet to beat a ranked opponent, and he's number 11, and I think that's deservedly so.
Yeah.
It's just always a little strange when someone gets that far up in the rankings without actually defeating a ranked fighter, but I think it's just been a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
A lot of guys leaving, a lot of guys coming in. Mateusz Gamrot, Diego Ferreira clearly was a ranked fighter at the time. Not too far before that, a top 10 fighter in the division.
Yeah.
Obviously, spell of bad luck. COVID may have gotten in the way of kind of really seeing what he could do at maybe his absolute best. You know, he had that great win against Anthony Pettis, and then it spent like a year on the shelf.
Yeah,
it is what it is, but I definitely think this is a more competitive bout than the odds tell you.
Oh, yeah.
I still lean towards Tsarukyan, and you'll see that later when we get into some of the betting side, but the odds are so skewed that like it's hard not to put a little bit on Mateusz Gamrot if you don't feel strongly enough about either guy, or of course if you lean very heavily to Gamrot, of course, but if you just are kind of 50-50, think this fight can go either way, how do you not put money on Gamrot? At plus 235, you may never get him at those kind of odds ever again in his career.
Yeah.
What I would say, Dominic, is when I look at this fight and what I think the matchup's going to be is who's wrestling, who's grappling is going to take over here.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know, because part of me, if you had asked me about this matchup maybe 6 months ago, maybe even a little bit before that, I may have told you that I thought Gamrot might get the better of the grappling exchanges, might be the better wrestler of the two.
Yeah.
Better pure grappler of the two. But the way Tsarukyan is just sort of, it's not just how he grapples, but it's the ground and pound he puts together with
He doesn't
it.
just lay, dude.
There's no wasted
kill.
movement. No wasted movement at all. And that's what you were about to allude to is he goes for the kill.
Yeah.
You saw that no clearer than in his last few performances, like we mentioned, Joel Alvarez. But even before that, Christos Giagos, he did that on the feet, I think, for the whole fight.
Yep.
So showing the improvements in the striking. I think we've seen in his wins Tsarukyan show a more developed game as well. We've seen just a little bit more of him, while Mateusz Gamrot, excellent submissions, excellent ground game. It's going to be a test. We're really going to have a lot answered about not just the state of where these guys are, but I think there's going to be a lot of takeaways as far as, okay, the winner of this fight, there might be a rocket strapped to their ass, and they might be heading right for the title picture here soon.
Yeah, that old wave in this lightweight division, they have to leave. We've seen them start trickling out a little bit at a time, right? We've seen even Gamrot take out one of them, like Noah already said. But yeah, the winner of this, I do agree, will be launched into the elite status.
All right, more on this fight to come. Let's talk about the co-main event for this card.
Oh, my goodness.
There could be a debate. As much as we love the main event and as much as we supported it, Dom, I do think there's a debate to be had on if this fight might not be the true main event of the card in some ways.
Yeah.
Because on one end, you got Neil Magny, still ranked number 10 at welterweight. He is looking to break George St. Pierre's welterweight record for wins. But Dominic, he's not being given a gimme fight to do it. In order to do so, he would have to be the first man to defeat Shavkat Rakhmonov. For those of you that aren't aware of Shavkat Rakhmonov, you need to educate yourselves now.
Yeah, you got a couple days to catch up.
Because think of what we all know about Khamzat Chimaev. Yeah, this guy's probably going to be fighting Khamzat for here soon. Yeah. And honestly, you might as well, look, I know maybe some people aren't as sold on Khamzat as they were before the Gilbert Burns fight, but I think me and you both are. We're still very high on him.
Yes.
Shavkat Rakhmonov might be better now.
He really might be. Much more well-rounded, I would think.
That's well, you might be right. I mean, it's hard for me to go out on a limb and say it, but I definitely see the argument for it. He's 15-0, 3-0 in the UFC. All three of his wins via finish, 2 submissions, 1 KO. The KO over Carlston Harris with the spinning wheel kick.
Yeah.
Carlston Harris, a solid opponent, by the way. Not a guy that you should be sleeping on either. And then even before that, his debut, Dominic, against a fighter who is now no longer in the company, but Cowboy Oliveira is your debut.
Yeah.
And you get the submission victory over him. I know Cowboy Oliveira, at his worst, he is a guy that he gets put on a lot of highlight reels.
Yeah.
But
that's a tough debut for anyone.
That is not an easy debut.
No.
Nowhere near an easy debut at all. And he made it look easy. That's just the truth of the matter. And really, for Neil Magny, Dom.
Respect. for taking a fight like this.
Should we give him a round of applause, like just a little clap.
The guy says, "I'll take on Hamza at the UFC. Best I can give you is Shavkat Rakhmonov." You know what I'm saying? Like,
I respect so much that this guy he wants to smoke. He wants to fire. He wants to jump in the fire.
yes,
He called for Hamza for so long, it just seemed to just slip out of his fingertips a couple times. But then even after his win at Columbus, UFC Columbus against Max Griffin,
sick fight.
he called again for Hamzat.
Yep.
But you knew Hamzat, if he beat Gilbert Burns, it might just be a step too far away at this point.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with the decision maybe to not do that fight because I don't know if it really needs to happen.
Not right now. Yeah.
But the UFC said, well, we got this other guy.
Exactly. Oh.
And, yeah, I have full respect for Neil Magny for taking this fight because, Dominic, I think the UFC is going to have a really hard time. If Shavkat Rakhmonov comes in here and does to Neil Magny even a fraction of what he was able to do to the likes of Carlston Harris, Michel Prazeres, and Alex Oliveira, the UFC is going to have to beg and plead the top 10 of this division to take a fight with this guy because he's a bit like, I'm trying to think of a good comparison for Shavkat here, like an animal, he's a bit of a snake, and I'm gonna.
Okay.
So, this is kind of doesn't make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
You know, what like a rattlesnake? What's a poisonous snake? Like a rattlesnake or an animal?
Yeah.
Is that a
rattlesnakes? They rattle. They rattle in their ass.
Yes, I didn't need the.
Okay. I just figured, just in case. Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I think a rattlesnake's poisonous. I don't know, guys.
It is, yes. Deadly.
I don't know. Anyways, he's a bit of a rattlesnakes make noise. My point is he's a poisonous ass snake that doesn't make a lot of noise.
Okay.
He's not someone that a lot of people, you know, if you go to the casual fans, they all know who Hamzat is at this point.
Yep.
I don't think a lot of guys know who Shavkat Rakhmonov is. I think the hardcore fans are well aware of how dangerous and the potential that he holds. But I think he's a bit of like our guy right now. Like he's our little secret.
Yes.
And I don't know if he'll be after this fight.
No.
I mean, Neil Magny is in the co-main event of this card. That's a stage that could be, you know, it's the brightest it'll be for him at this point and could really open a lot of people's eyes. But to finish off my analogy here about the whole snake thing is that the reason why none of these fighters are going to want to fight him is because he doesn't make a lot of noise. He's not someone that you're you know very aware of in terms of the top of this division. But man, you get into an arena with him, you get into a cage with him, you find yourself facing off with that snake.
Yeah.
One bite and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a deadly. He's a sniper, dare I say.
Maybe not my best analogy, but
it was good.
I tried my best. And
it was our first time talking about snakes on the show. I'll take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's really the truth of the matter here with Shavkat Rakhmonov is, as much as I respect Neil Magny for taking this fight, it's hard to side with him here, in my opinion. Even though 19-7 in the UFC. I mean, this guy, he's won 4 of his last 5 fights.
He's always been slept on forever.
Yeah. The only loss he has in that run has been Michael Chiesa,
yeah.
Which was the beginning of 2021, I believe.
Yeah, main event.
Fight Island. So outside of that, he's been great. I mean, he's really been on a good run. Wins over Jeff Neal, Robbie Lawler, Max Griffin, like we just mentioned. Along with, obviously, he has bigger names even if you go further back. But for me, Dominic, I will say at UFC Columbus, did it not feel like maybe Neil Magny was just losing a little step, like a half step?
A little bit.
Like maybe he would have more easily defeated Max Griffin just a couple years earlier. Did it feel like that to you?
He did a little bit, credit a little bit to Max Griffin as well. He kind of took Magny out of his wheelhouse. Magny's one that likes to, grind you up against that fence and really does a lot of work in the clinch. But he finally did utilize his reach. Noah and I have always talked about Neil Magny always having a reach advantage, but never utilizing it because he likes to clinch and grapple so much. In that fight, he was kind of forced to use it, and he did all right. He looked a little bit slower. It was a split decision, very close fight, could have went either way. So I think like to have that and then to go right into Shavkat 3 months later, less than 3 months, it's a huge jump. And I love Noah's analogy when comparing Rakhmonov to Khamzat, because at 3 fights, everybody knew who Khamzat was, right? He was taking fights. He fought twice in 10 days or whatever the hell it was. Well, Shavkat's also 3-0 in the UFC. Also has 3 amazing finishes, including the spinning wheel kick. But you don't hear about him because he's very quiet, a silent assassin. Shout out to Vicente Luque. I think that's his nickname. But Shavkat, dude, it says a lot for anyone to beat Neil Magny. But if he does go in here and gets a finish, ladies and gentlemen, Shavkat has 15 wins, 15 finishes, just in case you didn't know, by the way. It not only just says how good he is, but just like we talked about a rocket ship in the main event. Strap another rocket ship right on here to Shavkat's ass if he's going to go finish Neil Magny. Like, this is a big coming out party for young prospects in the future of the UFC, and it's here in the co-main event too.
Yeah. Neil Magny, by the way, 18 decisions in his career, 15 of those in the UFC. So 15 decisions in 26 bouts. Shavkat Rakhmonov, 0 decisions. That's really where I am most invested in this fight, Dominic. I think Shavkat Rakhmonov should win this fight.
Yeah.
It's a big test. It's a great matchup, I think. But to me, it's how's he going to get it done? And obviously, that's not to overlook Neil Magny here, because in my opinion, if Shavkat Rakhmonov is not finishing this fight, if he's not knocking out Neil Magny, if he's not submitting Neil Magny, which obviously is not easy to do, when this fight gets into the later parts of round 2 and round 3, does Rakhmonov still look the same? Does he still carry himself in that well-rounded skill set? Is there any chinks in the armor late? Because Neil Magny will find them.
Well, you said he's never obviously been to a decision. No, he's only even been to a 3rd round just once.
Wow.
Neil Magny lives in the 3rd round.
This is that's why I'm kind of hoping. Not that I would hope for Neil Magny to get finished early, but obviously fans of the sport, you love to see quick finishes and stuff like that.
Of course.
But I'm hoping this fight sees the 3rd round.
I want it all to be brought out of Shavkat.
I want to see Neil Magny start to try to wear on Shavkat, and I want to see how he responds.
100%.
That's what we need to get answered about this guy now, because if it doesn't get answered here, if he starches him, I mean, how can you not do the same thing we did with Khamzat?
Exactly.
It's like, shoot him up to the top.
And then we find out the dog in him.
Then you find out what Khamzat's capable of and what maybe he's lacking in against Gilbert Burns. But until then, Shavkat may be the 2nd pound-for-pound best fighter in this division right now.
Yeah.
Just in terms of pure skill, and we just have no idea yet. That's really how I feel. That's how highly I kind of view his upside.
And we really will find out in this matchup. We will.
Yeah. Neil Magny.